I'm Andrew Huberman, and I'm a professor of neurobiology and ophthalmology at Stanford School of Medicine. Today, I'm joined by Michael Easter, a professor at the University of Nevada, Las Vegas, and a globally recognized author. Michael's recent work dives into how the comforts of modern life erode both our mental and physical well-being. Just as importantly, he offers actionable strategies daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly habits that not only help counteract the negative effects of these comforts, but also allow us to continually evolve. He sheds light on how we can enhance our focus, engage in meaningful creative work, and build deeper, more authentic connections with others. The reason Michael is here today is because his book, The Comfort Crisis, has profoundly impacted my daily routine. It changed the way I think about all activities, whether they're easy or difficult, harmful or beneficial. I now view everything through the lens of whether it drains or replenishes my dopamine reserves, a distinction most of us overlook. Understanding this principle can dramatically elevate your focus and motivation, help you break free from compulsive behaviors, and foster more fulfilling relationships and leisure time. In today's conversation, Michael and I delve into these concepts and discuss how you can integrate them into your own life. He explains how both the physical and digital choices we make shape our lives over time and offers advice on how to improve those choices daily. He also shares the exact steps to becoming mentally tougher, a concept we hear often, but rarely with clear guidance on how to achieve it and how to cultivate an enduring sense of gratitude. Whether you're young or old, male or female, driven or more laid back, I believe everyone will find value in this discussion with Michael Easter. The insights and strategies he shares are truly transformative. Before we dive in, I want to clarify that this podcast is independent from my academic and research responsibilities at Stanford. It's part of my ongoing effort to make science-based information and practical tools available to the public at no cost. Today's episode is sponsored, and with that, I'm excited to share my conversation with Michael Easter. Michael, welcome. Thanks so much for being here. Growing up in an environment that emphasized outdoor activity and exposure to challenges can deeply shape a person's expectations for daily movement and energy. Many people come to realize that their need for regular physical exertion and the discomfort they feel when they don't get enough movement is rooted in early experiences of being active and facing physical challenges. Adopting a habit of intentionally seeking out difficult or uncomfortable tasks can lead to significant improvements in mental well-being and overall outlook on life. Considering the difference between modern living and the conditions in which our nervous systems developed is important. Human beings are fundamentally adapted to handle effort, discomfort, and regular physical activity. Our ancestors lived in circumstances that required constant movement, resilience, and the ability to cope with both physical and mental challenges. Life demanded ongoing exertion and the ability to adapt to discomfort in order to thrive. In contrast, today's world is structured to minimize hardship and maximize convenience. Many of the daily challenges that once shaped our bodies and minds have been removed. Food, comfort, and entertainment are readily available, and physical activity is no longer a necessity for survival. Even moments of boredom or discomfort can be easily avoided with modern technology and amenities. While this transformation has brought many benefits, it also introduces new problems. The absence of regular challenges and discomfort can impact mental and physical health, highlighting the importance of intentionally seeking out activities that push us beyond our comfort zones. Humans are naturally inclined to seek comfort and avoid unnecessary effort. This instinct made sense throughout most of our history, as conserving energy and taking advantage of extra food could mean the difference between survival and hardship. Our bodies and brains evolved to favor the easiest and safest options, because in the past, this strategy helped us survive, reproduce, and care for our young, who require a lot of attention compared to other species. However, the modern world is vastly different from the environments in which we evolved. Today, comfort is abundant and physical effort is rarely required. Ironically, these instincts that once helped us now often work against us. Many of the most common health issues today, such as obesity and metabolic diseases, are linked to overeating and inactivity, both consequences of our drive to seek comfort in a world where food and rest are easy to obtain. From an evolutionary perspective, It seems clear that much of human behavior is about minimizing discomfort and maximizing safety. But now that our surroundings are so comfortable, these ancient instincts can have negative side effects. While it's certainly preferable to face the challenge of needing to exercise for health rather than struggling daily for survival, it's important to recognize that our comfortable environments have created new problems that require modern solutions. Interestingly, much of today's health and wellness advice is about recreating the natural conditions we once lived in, encouraging people to spend time outdoors, get natural sunlight, breathe fresh air, and move their bodies is essentially an attempt to mimic the lifestyle that our biology is best suited for. Our natural environment was the outdoors, and returning to some of those habits can help counteract the downsides of modern comfort. When we confine ourselves within four walls and miss out on natural outdoor experiences, it can lead to subtle but significant psychological effects that aren't always positive. This concept applies broadly, but let's focus on physical activity as a prime example. Historically, nobody thought about exercising for its own sake. The very idea of exercise moving your body without a practical purpose only became common after the Industrial Revolution. As society shifted to more sedentary jobs, people began to notice new health issues arising among those who sat all day, while individuals with more active routines seemed to avoid these problems. This realization led to the invention of exercise as a remedy for inactivity. People were encouraged to move simply for the sake of movement, even though there was no immediate need to do so. In today's world, where many people average only a few thousand steps per day, we have to artificially create opportunities for movement. To address this, we've come up with creative, sometimes odd solutions. For example, we invented the treadmill, a motorized belt that allows someone to walk or run indoors, often while watching television or being bombarded with news and information. While this might seem like a practical fix, it's worth asking, what are we missing when we replace natural movement with these manufactured experiences? Running outdoors, especially on a trail, offers a completely different set of challenges and benefits. Trails are unpredictable. The terrain changes, there are obstacles to navigate, and you have to stay alert to your surroundings. Weather conditions can vary, forcing you to adapt. The natural environment provides constant sensory stimulation: trees, open spaces, wildlife, and unexpected sights. These elements engage both the body and the mind, offering not just physical benefits but emotional and even spiritual rewards. There's a unique satisfaction in encountering the unexpected, whether it's spotting a wild animal or simply feeling the wind shift as a storm approaches. These experiences connect us to the world in a way that a treadmill in an air-conditioned room never could. Nature challenges us, grounds us, and often leaves us with a sense of awe and accomplishment that's hard to replicate indoors. In essence, while modern solutions like indoor exercise equipment help address the lack of movement in our daily lives, they can't fully replace the richness and complexity of real outdoor experiences. By seeking out nature and embracing its unpredictability, we reconnect with the environment our bodies and minds were designed for and rediscover a deeper sense of well-being. When we talk about the effects of outdoor movement versus indoor or artificial environments on the human brain and nervous system, it's important to consider the underlying neural circuits involved. One of the key concepts here is the idea of optic flow, the way our visual field moves as we walk, run, or cycle through the world. This optic flow, which is far more dynamic and unpredictable outside, has a powerful impact on our nervous system. What's fascinating is that certain types of repetitive eye movements, those that naturally occur as we move through space, appear to engage neural mechanisms that suppress activity in the brain's fear centers. This is supported by scientific studies showing that forward movement and lateral eye motion can help regulate threat responses and promote a sense of calm. In other words, moving through an environment where your visual field is constantly changing helps to quiet the parts of your brain that might otherwise generate anxiety or stress. From a neurobiological perspective, this makes a lot of sense. Our nervous systems evolved in environments that required us to be constantly on the move, hunting, gathering, and navigating through unpredictable terrain. In those settings, being able to suppress fear and maintain focus was essential for survival. Today, even though our environments are much safer and more controlled, our brains still respond best to the kind of sensory input that comes from real-world movement. That's why when you compare running on a treadmill indoors to running on a trail outside, there's a big difference in how your brain and body feel. The treadmill provides a controlled, predictable experience, while the trail offers constant variability and novelty. This variability engages your visual, vestibular, and proprioceptive systems in ways that are simply not possible indoors. If we want to optimize our mental and physical health, it's important to recognize the value of getting outside and moving through natural environments. This kind of movement not only supports physical fitness, but also helps regulate our nervous system, reducing anxiety and promoting a greater sense of well-being. So if you're looking for actionable ways to improve your mental health and nervous system function, consider making outdoor movement a regular part of your routine. Whether it's walking, running, cycling, or just spending time in green spaces, these activities provide the kind of sensory input that your brain is wired to respond to, and that can make a real difference in how you feel every day. When people move forward with determination, even in the face of fear or uncertainty, it can have a profound impact both in nature and as a metaphor for life. In the context of risk and reward, forward movement often shifts the balance in our favor, whether we're talking about survival situations or personal growth. This principle isn't about seeking danger for its own sake. It's about understanding that meaningful progress often requires stepping into discomfort or uncertainty when there's a clear purpose or reward. For some, this means taking calculated risks rather than reckless ones. The goal isn't to pursue hardship blindly, but to recognize that overcoming challenges is part of achieving something greater. There's a difference between intellectual understanding, gathering information, reading studies, consulting experts, and experiential understanding, which comes from direct involvement and personal experience. While research and expert insights are invaluable, first-hand encounters often provide deeper, more memorable lessons that can be shared with others in a relatable way. Choosing to engage with the world, sometimes in demanding or unpredictable environments, can lead to insights and growth that aren't accessible from a distance. Whether it's venturing into unfamiliar places, tackling difficult tasks, or simply pushing beyond comfort zones, these experiences contribute to a richer understanding of both ourselves and the world around us. When we intentionally step outside our comfort zones, we start to uncover deeper insights about ourselves, our limits, and the world around us. There's a fundamental difference between knowing something intellectually and truly understanding it through experience. Intellectual understanding comes from reading, listening, or studying, but experiential understanding is embodied, it's felt, lived, and remembered. If I can communicate that lived experience, I have a much better chance of inspiring someone to take action that could meaningfully improve their life. Importantly, this doesn't mean you need to embark on extreme adventures or travel to remote places. Growth can begin right where you are, with small steps into discomfort. Try something just slightly outside your usual routine. Maybe it's waking up a bit earlier, taking a cold shower, or having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. When you survive that first challenge, you realize the edge isn't as dangerous as it seemed. Over time, as you continue to push those boundaries, your comfort zone expands, and you become more capable and resilient. In our modern world, we're surrounded by luxuries and conveniences that previous generations could only dream of. Yet, paradoxically, many of us still feel overwhelmed by stress and discomfort. Small annoyances like travel delays or minor inconveniences can feel disproportionately challenging because our threshold for discomfort has dropped. It's easy to laugh at ourselves for getting frustrated by these first-world problems. But the reality is that our brains haven't adapted to this new level of comfort. When everything is easy, even minor obstacles can seem hard. So how can someone start building real resilience and make those everyday discomforts less overwhelming? The key is to introduce voluntary challenges into your life on purpose and in manageable doses. This is sometimes called voluntary discomfort. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Start with something small that feels just a bit uncomfortable. Maybe it's skipping the elevator and taking the stairs, or going for a walk in the rain instead of waiting for perfect weather. The goal is to practice being okay with discomfort, to train your nervous system to handle stress in a controlled way. Over time, this practice can shift your perspective. The things that once seemed difficult start to feel easier. You develop a greater sense of gratitude for the comforts you do have, and you become less bothered by life's inevitable frustrations. Most importantly, you build a foundation of resilience that helps you handle bigger challenges when they arise. One of the most powerful ways to reset our perception of comfort and discomfort is through direct experience with true challenge. When you immerse yourself in an environment that requires constant effort, where every basic task is difficult and your nervous system is pushed to adapt, you create a neurobiological contrast effect. This is a fundamental principle in neuroscience. Our brains calibrate what we perceive as comfortable or uncomfortable based on recent experience and context. After prolonged exposure to difficult conditions, returning to everyday life can feel profoundly luxurious. The brain's reward systems become more sensitive to small pleasures like a comfortable chair, hot coffee, or running water because the baseline for comfort has shifted. This is not just a psychological trick, it's a tangible recalibration of neural circuits related to reward, motivation, and gratitude. There's also a well-documented phenomenon in psychology, sometimes called prevalence-induced concept change, where the absence of real adversity causes us to become hypersensitive to minor annoyances. When true hardship is rare, our brains expand the definition of what counts as difficult. This is why, in modern life, even small inconveniences can feel disproportionately stressful. The actionable takeaway here is that deliberately engaging in voluntary discomfort, such as spending time in challenging environments or taking on difficult tasks, can reset your nervous system's threshold for stress. This practice not only increases resilience, but also enhances your appreciation for the comforts you have. It's a form of neural training. By occasionally raising the bar for what you consider hard, you make everyday life feel easier and more rewarding. So, if you want to cultivate more gratitude and resilience, consider intentionally exposing yourself to manageable challenges. It doesn't have to be extreme, just something that pushes you outside your usual comfort zone. Over time, your brain and body will adapt, and you'll find greater satisfaction in the simple luxuries of daily life. One of the most interesting things we know about the human brain is that it's not designed to make us happy or satisfied, it's designed to keep us alive. That means it's constantly scanning for problems. When your environment is full of real stressors, your brain calibrates accordingly and only reacts to genuine threats. But when those stressors start to disappear, when life becomes more comfortable, more predictable, your brain doesn't just relax. Instead, it shifts its baseline. It becomes more sensitive. It starts labeling smaller and smaller issues as serious problems. This is called adaptive gain. Your nervous system ramps up sensitivity when it detects fewer signals, because it's designed to avoid danger at all costs. So in a comfortable, low-threat environment, your brain still wants to find something to react to. It will zoom in on micro discomforts and inflate them. That's why people can feel just as stressed in a peaceful life as they did during real adversity. Their perception system has retuned. The solution isn't more comfort, it's controlled challenge. Cold exposure, intense physical activity, cognitive strain, voluntary discomfort, these are the tools that recalibrate your threat detection systems. They signal to the brain, this is real. Pay attention to this. And in doing so, they push your threshold back up to a level that makes sense. Without regular input like that, your brain will keep adjusting its filter until it starts flagging everyday annoyances as existential threats. That's not weakness, that's plasticity. But it's also why, if you want to stay mentally strong in a low-threat world, you have to engineer the right kind of friction into your life. Not chaos, not suffering. Just enough discomfort to remind your system what a real problem feels like. Otherwise, your mind will create new ones and they'll feel just as urgent as the old ones ever did. In many ways, we live on what you could call a neurotic treadmill. As real problems fade, the brain doesn't stop scanning. It just finds new, smaller issues to fixate on. That's not pathology, it's how our nervous system is wired. But the result is this strange phenomenon. Life gets objectively easier, yet subjectively harder. So how do you recalibrate your system? You do it by deliberately exposing yourself to deeper realities. One powerful method is volunteering. When you spend time with people who are living through real adversity, whether it's homelessness, addiction recovery, or trauma, you instantly get perspective. That feedback loop matters. It doesn't take much. An hour a week with someone who's struggling resets your definition of what actually counts as a problem. I've sat in recovery meetings where someone tells a story so raw, so heavy, that whatever was stressing me out earlier, taxes, emails, traffic, evaporates. That's neurological reset in action. These moments push your brain's threat calibration back toward truth. And just as important as the experience itself is the narrative you attach to it. This is where ancient traditions had it figured out. Rites of passage weren't about ceremony, they were about transformation through challenge. You take someone from point A to point B, not by telling them they're ready, but by sending them into the fire: solitude, fear, exposure, discomfort. They come back changed, but that change only sticks if it's integrated into a story. What did you go through? What did you learn? This is narrative centrality, and the science is clear. People who make traumatic events the center of their identity often suffer more, but those who frame those same events as chapters, meaningful, painful, but not definitive, tend to thrive. The difference lies in how you encode the experience into your psychological system. If you want to be mentally resilient in a world that's constantly softening, then seek voluntary hardship, integrate the lessons, and craft a narrative that serves growth, not victimhood. That's the real rite of passage. That's how you step off the neurotic treadmill and onto solid ground. One of the most powerful things you can do for your mental and emotional clarity is to look back at your life, not just through memory, but through structure, actually mapping out the key events and phases, whether it's 0 to 5, 5 to 10, and so on. What you often find is that the moments that felt the worst at the time, the failures, the heartbreaks, the uncertainty, were the exact catalysts for your most meaningful growth. That pattern reveals something fundamental. Discomfort is not the enemy of happiness, it's the prerequisite. In fact, nearly everything that's good for us long-term comes packaged with short-term resistance. Exercise burns. Clean eating can feel bland. Vulnerable conversations are terrifying. But these aren't punishments, they're biological levers built to activate change. The nervous system isn't built to seek comfort, it's built to adapt. And adaptation only happens when the system is challenged. The problem is that modern life has made it easy to drift into a kind of low-grade self-infantilization, always looking for convenience, ease, and certainty, trying to replicate the full care phase of early childhood. But we're not meant to live there. Growth doesn't happen in safety. It happens when safety is left behind. And if we want to become the kind of humans we admire, resilient, capable, grounded, then we have to lean into the very things that feel tough now but pay off later. Not just because they're good for us, but because they remind our nervous system what it's actually designed to do: grow through challenge, not avoid it. From an evolutionary standpoint, the reason so many things feel uncomfortable, whether it's hunger, fatigue, or physical strain, is because our nervous system evolved to conserve energy. Discomfort was a signal to stop, to rest, to preserve resources in environments where scarcity was the norm. Hunger meant you needed food now. Pain meant damage. Effort without payoff was dangerous. Movement, especially extra movement, was metabolically expensive and risky. But the modern environment has completely flipped. Now it's the uncomfortable behaviors, the hunger from intermittent fasting, the burn from exercise, the emotional friction of hard conversations that are actually the gateway to a better, more adaptive life. What used to be warning signs are now often markers of growth. The circuitry is ancient, but the context has changed. So the key shift is learning to reinterpret discomfort not as a danger signal, but as a cue for transformation. This applies to almost every domain of modern life: mental health, physical health, career growth, relationships. In today's world, choosing the hard path deliberately and consistently is usually the price of admission to a stronger, clearer, more meaningful existence.